All right, hey, welcome to Plain City, Ohio, in the heart of Ohio. My name is Matt Misicka, and I'm here with fellow instructor Tim Hampton. Today we are talking a little bit about how to sleep warm and what you need to do to be prepared. We hear from lots of people that their chief concern is they sleep cold at night, or they've been out somewhere and they've frozen their tail off. And we're going to give you some ideas on what you need to do and some of the fundamentals behind having a warm night's sleep. Tim's going to start us off with a talk about some of the fundamentals of good health as you approach your first night out.
Thanks, Matt. General health is one of the things that people do not take into consideration when dealing with sleeping warm. One of the big factors is just how are you feeling. You may have done too much that day and your body is depleted. This is a huge problem because your body is not going to relax properly no matter what kind of sleeping bag or conditions that you're in, and you may not sleep comfortably. You need to consider, how do you feel in general? Do you have a cold coming on or have an allergy issues? These are factors that all affect what's going on. Then you start dealing with things such as what has your food consumption been? Food consumption is a major factor because if you eat the wrong things or don't eat enough or are dieting, your body doesn't have the fuel, doesn't have the energy, doesn't have the things that you need basically to just be able to produce the heat, because your sleeping equipment does not keep you warm. It only insulates you. Your body is what's keeping you warm. You need something to burn. You need those groceries. You need that fuel. And so those conditions become problematic if you've not eaten enough. As a general rule, you should be taking in the majority of your fats in the evening. That way, that long night that you're going to be sleeping should be carefully contained and basically be able to burn that through the night, so at 3 o'clock in the morning you're not waking up frozen. The other factors in dealing with like food consumption, things like that, is your moisture consumption. One of the problems that happens is people do not consume enough. The average adult human should take in about a gallon of water. Not Gatorade, not beer, not anything else, but a gallon of water a day to stay completely, efficiently hydrated. One of the problems that we've seen is people taking in their fluids late in the day, and so all of a sudden they're taking in a half gallon or even a couple of quarts in that process late in the day. So what happens is they're up all night, so they're not getting good rest because they're up all night having to pee. And this is a huge problem. Take your fluids in early, balance them out. Don't really drink much after dinner. That way you can evacuate before going to bed. And then where you end up is you can usually get a longer stretch without having to get up every couple of hours to basically pee. And this breaks up your sleep patterns. You're not going to rest comfortably. So be very careful on those factors. As for food, you want to watch the salt intake, you want to watch your sugar intake, because those also affect that fluid intake. Again, we find that, again, taking the majority of any of your fats, and we're not talking about necessarily fat proteins such as from meats, but even your nuts and things like that, that basically going to allow for that balance in the evening. You need to be able to, in a sedentary state, be able to, your body was able to slow burn so that it'll get you through the night. Any kind of really cold conditions, which Matt and I have done many times, you want to be able to be 10 hours in the bag or even 12 hours in the bag and not be dying halfway through because you didn't take in enough fluids, you didn't take in enough food. Other parts of the general conditions, such as, when you've got to go, get out of the bag. Don't lay there at midnight thinking I can handle five more hours. It won't happen. Just get up, get done, get back in the bag. You'll sleep more comfortably in general. Have fluids available also right there at the bag so that you can basically consume those when you're in the bag, because you will dry out. Things will happen because a human body passes approximately a pint of moisture at night when it sleeps. These are fluids that you're losing if you've not had your tissues well hydrated early. Then the problem you're going to have is exactly what I was mentioning. You're going to end up having to pee, or you're going to be too dry, and you're not going to regulate your temperature. Your temperature is regulated by your body fluids completely. So these factors all affect whether your general health, as the rule states. So you want to make sure that everything is done well. Being too tired, not having enough fluids, and not having the proper foods, all of these factors will relate to whether you're sleeping warm before any equipment is involved with it.
Hey, we've all done this many times. You get into camp late and you're exhausted, you're cold, you're tired. You want to get right in your sleeping bag. That doesn't necessarily equate to a good night's sleep. I think one of the most important things you can do is have the right clothes to sleep in. A lot of times that means getting out of your old clothes. I've got some examples here to share with you. You know, you lose a lot of your heat through your feet, your hands, and your neck and your head. So starting at the bottom, your feet, having a nice dry, fresh pair of socks to change into. Here's a close-up of a sock that's been worn all day and a sock that's brand new. And you can see which one's got more insulating factors. Again, as you've sweated and stomped on that sock all day, you've flattened out all those nubs that would provide the insulation you need to help keep you warm. And again, getting rid of those wet socks off your feet. Even if you haven't been in water, if you've been in a pair of all leather boots or shoes all day, you've put sweat and moisture into those socks. Having clean, dry socks is a great way to keep your feet warm. For your upper body and torso, again, you'll hear this all the time from people in the outdoors. No cotton. You've got to be using artificial fibers of some sort. And or wool, and there's a whole variety of those different products out there. An artificial fiber shirt, especially one that maybe got a zip in it and a turtleneck, again, allows you to go clear up and protect your neck and lose that, or decrease the amount of heat you lose through your neck when you've got a good long sleeve shirt on. Again, you're getting rid of that cotton t-shirt you've been wearing all day that's collected moisture and been holding it. You're getting out of that. A pair of long underwear bottoms will also, again, of the same types of materials, synthetic materials or wool or even silk, will go a long way so long as they're dry and helping you stay warmer at night. A balaclava, a type of hat that goes around and again covers some of your neck, covers your whole head. This is a great way to, again, to keep from losing heat just out the top of your head when you're sleeping in a sleeping bag in the cold.
It's not a Greek dessert.
Yes, it's not baklava, it's balaclava. And again, if you don't need something this heavy or this sophisticated, even having some type of a hooded a pullover of some sort, something, again, polyester, synthetic fiber, again with a hood on it to help, again, keep you from losing heat out through the neck and the top of the head. So again, thinking about clean, dry clothes. When you go to bed and your jeans and things like that, again, it's not what's working best with your sleeping bags. Also, again, when it's extremely cold, having a pair of gloves, or better yet, a pair of mittens even. Again, you don't want so much clothing on that your body parts can't warm one another, but you want to have something there that, again, prevents you from that insensitive loss of heat when you're sleeping overnight. Another great way to generate a little heat is to change your clothes in your sleeping bag. It'll frustrate you and warm you up at the same time. So when you're ready to go to bed at night, you've put out the campfire, you've done all those other things, you get into your sleeping bag, that's when you change into your warm, dry clothes then. Another thing you can do, again, your body has, oils on it to help protect your sleeping bag from getting those oils on it. Nighttime's the best time to take your wet wipes or your dude wipes or whatever you've got and wipe yourself down, get yourself cleaned up before you go to bed. Don't wait till the next morning to do that. Get your body ready for a good night's sleep the night before.
Remember, moisture is it is one of the critical things to keep you healthy, but it is also one of the things that will cause a cooling action on your body. And so handling that moisture, as Matt was saying, artificial fibers and or wool, and staying away from cottons as much as you can is one of the greatest factors. Cotton absorbs moisture like is exactly what you want as a towel, but it holds it. It holds it against your skin. Wool and artificial fibers they'll basically pull it away from your skin. Wool wicks it through the fiber. Artificial fibers actually transport it away very quickly so that you do not have the moisture issues that cause that cooling action. Now, there are 3 factors in rating of sleeping bags. Everybody's looked at sleeping bags and they've got this temperature rating. Those 3 factors are basically, they're rated with a shelter. Most people aren't aware of this. They're rated in dead airspace, which means a shelter. They're rated with appropriate ground insulation, and they're rated with multiple bodies in that shelter. Those factors are pretty critical. So if you're soloing or not using a shelter, an appropriate shelter, it's not going to have the rating. Now, we're not going to talk about sleeping bags today. You're going to need to come to the expo to see that. But what we are going to talk about is appropriate ground insulation, which is what people miss quite often. There are 2 factors, 2 things that need to be done. One, an air mattress may be very comfortable, but it is not functional as ground insulation. You have the air moves within that between the warm air against your body, cold air of the ground, and it tends to move. So it actually is cooler, and in colder temperatures it detracts. The first things that were used for ground insulation in the modern backpacking or outdoor industry was a foam pad. There's 2 kinds of foams. There's open cell, closed cell. You can think of them simply as open cell. They connect to one another like a sponge. They will also tend to absorb moisture, but they tend to be a little more comfortable. Closed cell foams have a great advantage in that they're more durable. Because each cell is separated from one another, and they tend to insulate better because it works like neoprene or some other materials. There are many types of open cell and closed cell foams out there. As a general rule, you want a 1/2 inch thick closed cell foam as a minimum insulation factor. This will give you good insulation, not necessarily good comfort, and some of our old bones are feeling anymore. We try not to use that. This is just one design that tends to lay together very easily, very comfortably, folds out. There are many of them that roll up. They do not have to cost a lot of money. You can buy them as cheap as $10 for a 1/2 inch closed cell foam, or way up into many tens of dollars for the same approximate factor. Again, they can weigh any number of things, but they work extremely well. The early foams were Ensolite was the most common. Problem is it would freeze. Get below 0 and it starts to freeze. You get below any of the low temperatures, it would actually crack and break apart. The newer polyethylene foams tend to hold up extremely well, inexpensive and very durable. But the newest factors are really some type of foam pad, air pad. Now there are 2 kinds. There's one that's a self-inflating pad designed, basically you've seen them, a number of manufacturers, and what they may be called a self-inflating air mattress. It is a open cell foam sealed in an environment with a valve. And what that valve does is it allows air in as it expands, and you close it and it insulates. These are good pads as a general rule. They're not good for winter conditions because the valves have a tendency to degrade. They may break, they may freeze up, all kinds of things. They can be problematic. The newest designs, which are very light, very small, and work well, is they basically looks like an air mattress, but it actually has fiber fill, light fiber fill all through it. So it stops the air movement inside, which is the problem with an air mattress. It still uses a valve, but these are lighter and easier to function overall. We've been using a number of manufacturers over the last few years, and they do very well. Their long-term durability we're not so sure about yet, but if you understand that they're not extremely durable, you'll protect them a little bit better, and they'll give you that insulation. But your sleeping bag, no matter what the rating is, will not work even close to that rating without appropriate ground insulation. This is extremely important. Now, what we'd like you to do, come to the expo, and we'll spend a lot more time talking about actually sleeping bag designs, what's good, what's bad, not necessarily specific manufacturers, but really how to find the right kind of bag according to the equipment, the quality, the real differences between fills. And there's a dramatic difference between fills and how they function. The biggest factor you're going to need to deal with is making sure all your components are together so that you can sleep comfortably. I will tell you, I have more than once been caught in a situation with not a right amount of equipment, but able to sleep comfortably because I understood the concepts of health, clothing, as well as insulation factors of the different pieces of equipment. I even got caught at one of the expos and forgot my sleeping bag, and it was cold. I bought a real cheap one, and I slept very comfortable because I understood the concepts. Where we had people with very expensive equipment coming complaining to us, and they didn't understand the concept. So come to the expo, and we'll kind of fill you in on the rest of it.